What's up, peeps? Crypto Enigma here. Welcome back to the channel, baby. Yeah. So, as we all know by now, about 2 weeks ago as of the recording of this video, the Nintendo Switch 2 was revealed in a 2-minute teaser trailer that has since left the public with mixed feelings. Now, we Nintendo fans understand that this wouldn't have been a proper console reveal if it wasn't immediately followed by Nintendo-hating edgelords crawling out of the sewers to spew their toxic ignorance upon the public. This is something that we Nintendo fans have grown accustomed to. It is something that we have become numb to over the years, and so these people aren't the focus of today's video. But you see, amongst all of the noise that these people make, there are other more valid criticisms that I do feel are more worthy of discussion because they do revolve around a long-standing controversial topic that I do have strong opinions on, and I now finally get to discuss them. So y'all are gonna hear it. You see, at the time that the Switch was revealed, I was scrolling through Twitter when I came across this tweet here. Now, as you can see, this post here got quite a lot of attention with 4.9 million views, and it's basically just this guy commenting on some initial impressions that Maximilian Dude had of the Switch 2. So I'm gonna play a portion of this video for you just so you guys can get some context, and then I'm going to address what this user here had to say about it.
I have to say, just based on what we're looking at, just based on how this is, okay, right? This is almost the most like nothing burger way to announce a system. And it almost leans on the fact that, hey, you know that thing you already have? You know what this 100% reminds me of? It's an iPhone, dude. This is an iPhone upgrade. It feels like the way new phones are marketed to you. This thing is a little bit better than that previous thing you had.
And so just to be clear, Maximilian Dude did clarify his position. He did make a whole video kind of explaining where he actually stands on this. He did reply to this user and kind of said that he was kind of misquoted. So if you're interested on his opinion, you go and check out his video. But I'm now going to read what this user had to say. So the post reads, I absolutely 100% agree with Max here. The Switch 2 is the most nothing burger device ever, with the most uneventful reveal ever in the history of gaming. This is so bad that investors didn't even wait 5 minutes to say, nah thanks, we're out. This shouldn't be called a Switch 2. It's literally just a Switch Pro. Steam Deck and the ROG Ally just make this thing relevant to me, whatever. So what I want to focus on is where this user here says this shouldn't be called a Switch 2. It's literally just a Switch Pro. As far as what's better between the Switch and the Steam Deck, that's a whole completely separate topic I'm not going to get into right now. And whether or not the reveal was underwhelming, I actually made a whole video on that myself, which I will link at the end of this video. But in terms of the Switch being nothing more than a Switch Pro, I really want to focus on that statement because it was kind of a shared sentiment that was going around online. And so that is the notion that I will be addressing in this video. Now, just to give you a better idea of what people were saying, we're going to be taking a look at some articles here as well as some other comments, and we're going to start with what Mr. Takashi had to say, which reads,
Nintendo is taking PlayStation's approach in making the Switch 2, which disappointed some who had expected a sense of wonder to the company.
So as you can see, he's kind of echoing what the previous commenters had to say, which is, he's basically implying that the Switch 2 is almost the same device as the Switch 1. Now we're going to look at what Eurogamer had to say, and they're saying,
what happened to the company that used to surprise people?
The headline here is,
if the Switch 2 is the end of innovative Nintendo, there's much to be said about what happened to the company that used to surprise us.
And then it goes on to read,
generation after generation, Nintendo surprised us with new ideas, even when the ideas themselves seem light. I can't have been the only person watching the Switch 2 reveal yesterday, hoping to be surprised. The only person hoping to be Nintendo'd.
Here we have Gizmodo saying,
I'm afraid the Switch 2 design lacks Nintendo's special sauce.
They go on to say, don't get me wrong, I wanted a more powerful Switch that could play Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom without rampant frame rate drops. Still,
the dark aesthetic of the Switch 2 is incongruent with Nintendo's usual design ethos.
This one here is actually pretty damn ridiculous, and it's an article from Games Radar, and it reads, analysts predict
Switch 2 might struggle with attracting mainstream buyers for the same reason Wii U failed. I can imagine normies being a bit confused.
And it reads, I can imagine normies being a bit confused. Gaming industry consultant Serkan Toto tells Games Radar. The device is bigger than the original Switch, but not comically large. The form factor, button layout, and overall design are very similar to the Switch 1, so I can imagine issues arising when potential mainstream buyers look at the new device. Fuck. Imagine walking into the fucking store to buy a Switch 2, they hand you a Switch 1, you fucking see it, and then you walk out of the fucking store. These are ridiculous articles. These are ridiculous arguments being made, and let me explain why. So as you just saw, all of those people were essentially echoing each other's opinion in saying that the Switch 2 isn't innovative enough. It didn't come with a fucking gimmick, is essentially what they argued. The Switch 2 isn't innovative enough as the previous Nintendo consoles were. As a Nintendo fan, I cannot tell you how frustrating it is to hear that. First of all, I honestly feel like I'm being gaslit, because for as long as I can remember, everybody and their mothers, as well as every outlet that I can think of, argued the exact opposite. Literally, for as long as I have been a Nintendo fan, the prevailing narrative had been that Nintendo consoles are always underpowered, and so they have to make up for that by inventing these wacky, crazy gimmicks. This is what was said about the GameCube. This is what was said about the Wii. This is what was said about the Wii U, and it's even what was said about the Switch itself. As far as the GameCube, why it wasn't necessarily underpowered, but why did they have to make those little discs? Why did the Wii U have to use these wacky nunchucks as their controllers? Why couldn't they just design a standard controller? What's with all these motion controls? Why did the Wii U have to have this ridiculous this little tablet that it came with? You couldn't even take it to the toilet. You had to still sit in front of the fucking Wii U. Why did the Switch have to be a fucking tablet? Why couldn't they just design a traditional home console? Why couldn't they just make something that equaled the power of the PS5 or the Series X? Why? I very clearly remembered throughout the years as a Nintendo fan, I very, very clearly remember people claiming that Nintendo's gimmicks were always useless and that they should instead just focus on creating a powerful traditional home console. That has been the narrative for my whole fucking life as a Nintendo fan. Nintendo has always been ridiculed for attempting to be innovative. So you can imagine how ridiculous it seems to me to now suddenly have all of these same people turn around and ask for innovation, ask for gimmicks. It is so incredibly stupid to me that this is what people are choosing to have a problem with after the years of fucking ridicule for doing exactly that. So when you consider how long Nintendo has been criticized for attempting to be innovative, you can understand why, in my opinion, the critiques of Nintendo having a lack of innovation now really come off as nothing more than it's a lazy smear campaign by Nintendo hating edgelords who are really just coming up with lazy excuses to have a reason to hate the damn Switch. I am positive that they did innovate with the Switch 2 just based off of the leaks. I know that the Switch 2 will have features that the Switch 1 didn't. We know that the Switch 2 does have that mouse functionality, and I'm sure that there are many other things that will be announced in the upcoming April Direct. But like, what are you actually expecting? What were you actually expecting them to show after basically perfecting the design of the Switch? Do you want want it to look differently? Do you want it to do you want to use your Switch as a frisbee? Do you want it to float? Do you want it to be a triangle shape? What exactly were you asking for? Because here's the thing. Let's take PlayStation as an example. The PlayStation it's basically a box with tech inside, with every iteration of the PlayStation being more powerful than its previous version. Yes, every PlayStation looks slightly different from the other, but at the end of the day, they're all essentially still just boxes with tech inside of them. And that is okay because that is perfect for what they are. The design of the PlayStation box has always ultimately been irrelevant because of what the PlayStation is and the way that the system is used. Again, it's essentially just a small computer that plays video games, and therefore PlayStation has never felt the need to, invent this wacky gimmick around the PlayStation, or make the PlayStation look a certain shape, or just do anything particularly crazy, because the PlayStation already perfectly does what it is designed to do. And you can say the same about the Xbox. But when it comes to Nintendo, people have always argued that Nintendo never really had a clear vision for what they wanted to do. They never really had clear direction for where they wanted to go. The GameCube was criticized for, having tiny discs. The Wii was criticized for just being too gimmicky overall. The Wii U basically flopped. And so it was always argued that Nintendo was always experimenting with these wacky ideas and these crazy gimmicks because they were never really sure on how to design a traditional home console that could successfully compete with PlayStation and Xbox, is what the haters would say. And what I'm arguing now is that Nintendo has done exactly that. Nintendo has finally perfected the design of their home console. And what I mean by that is this. Nintendo was never competing with Xbox or PlayStation in terms of creating the most powerful box, because they understood that by taking that route, at some point down the line, you would have to compete with a whole ass computer. You would have to compete with PC. They saw this writing on the wall years ago, and this is why the design of the Switch is ingenious, because they understood that they were never even going to attempt to develop something like a mini computer, and they understood that this is the direction the gaming industry was heading in. So rather than taking Sony and Microsoft's approach in attempting to develop a mini computer that can only play video games, they pivoted and purposely and intentionally developed something that they knew could potentially compete with a PC. And that, of course, is a tablet. Think about it. How many people do you see walking around with cell phones? How many people do you know who have an iPad? How many people have any kind of tablet, and how often are those devices used in our daily lives? That is the vision that Nintendo had when they decided to make the strategic pivot into developing a gaming tablet. Yes, you have your beefy PCs that may be able to play any game at the highest resolution, but ultimately you are tethered to a wall, you are tethered to a monitor, whereas the Switch offers the convenience of portability as any other tablet does. So they aren't competing with PCs or PlayStation or Xbox in terms of power, but rather they're competing in terms of consumer appeal. You see, many people don't see any sense in buying a home console like the Xbox or the PlayStation if they have the means to purchase a whole computer, a whole gaming PC. And Nintendo understands that predicament, so they developed a console that could give you an experience unlike anything else that existed in the market through its portable functionality. And so I say all of that to say that, in my opinion, no further innovation needs to be made with the Switch's design, because it's already perfectly designed for what it is, as a portable gaming tablet. For example, the cell phone doesn't need to be redesigned because it already has the optimal design. It's already perfectly designed for what it is. You need to be able to hold it, you need to be able to speak through it, you need to be able to hear through it. So this rectangle shape is literally like the best shape for that. The same with tablets. They're basically just giant screens that you can interact with. This big rectangle shape is the best design for the tablet. Likewise with the Switch, The Switch itself is a tablet, and it's already perfectly shaped as a tablet. The Joy-Cons attached to the best possible location on the Switch. It would look weird if one of them was like on top of the Switch and the other on the bottom, or like if the Switch, the Joy-Cons attached to the Switch, you know, horizontally instead of how they do vertically. It's already perfectly designed as a portable gaming tablet, so like what else do you want to do with it? The only thing you can do with it is change the tech inside of it, and that brings me to my next 2 points. Yes, that does make it a new device, a new console, and no, they absolutely should not pivot away from the idea of a hybrid portable home console. Absolutely not. To my first point, it is not just a Switch Pro or a simple upgrade of the Switch 1, and nobody makes this argument whenever Sony or Microsoft release a console, which is basically just better tech in a box. Nobody made this argument when the PS2 came out. The PS2 is basically just better tech in a box than the PS1. PS3, better tech in a box than the PS2, etc, etc. Every time Apple releases a new iPhone, it is always regarded as a new phone. Maybe not by everybody, but the general consensus is that a new phone was released, and nobody expects Apple to redesign the cell phone. Nobody expects them to come out with triangle-shaped cell phones. No one expects Apple to redesign the cell phone. Each new phone is the same basic design with better tech inside of it, and that has always been the case, and people have always regarded these new iterations of each phone as new phones. People have always understood this. The Switch, on the other hand, is not just better tech than the Wii U in another box, because it's actually a completely separate concept from what the Wii U was, or a completely separate concept from anything else they've ever made, or anything else that existed in the market at the time. Yes, the PS5 looks different from the PS4, and the PS4 looks different from the PS3, but that's only because, again, they are just redesigning the box that houses the tech inside of it, whereas the Switch is already perfectly designed as a portable gaming tablet. In other words, they don't have to change the design because it's already perfectly designed for what it is, like the cell phone, like a tablet, like any other tablet that you're used to seeing. The Nintendo Switch 2 is a portable gaming tablet, so it wasn't necessary to change its design from the Switch 1. Yes, the PS5 looks different from the PS4, and the PS4 looks different from the PS3, etc. But again, that is only because they are redesigning the box that houses the tech inside of it. Whereas the Switch 2 is already perfectly designed as a portable gaming tablet. Again, there is no need to change the design for the Switch because it's a tablet that you can take on the go, whereas every other home console changes its design because it's just the fucking box that you're looking at. The tech inside of it is what you're really fucking paying for. They just make it look pretty. The Switch is already, again, perfectly designed for what it is. So to say that the Switch 2 isn't a new device, isn't a new console because it looks similar to the Switch 1 is not only just completely hypocritical, but again, it's a ridiculous argument because only Nintendo is being held to that standard. That logic is not applied to anything else. No one applies that logic to cell phones. Nobody applies that logic to anything. Anytime anyone releases a new device, these devices are always better iterations of the previous ones. No one expects any gimmicks with them. Nobody expects any gimmicks with cell phones. Nobody expects gimmicks from PlayStation or Microsoft. So again, to say that the Switch 2 isn't a new console because it's not coming out with all of these crazy and wacky gimmicks that you don't expect from anyone else is not only just a ridiculous hypocrisy, but again, it's a double standard that is only applied to Nintendo. Furthermore, if you are of the opinion that they should have done something entirely different and abandoned their idea of a portable hybrid console, you are dumb as hell, and we're gonna have to agree to disagree. Listen, you were allowed to want something unique. You were allowed to want something different. I understand that. However, I actually love the idea of a portable hybrid console. I love that the Switch exists. I love being able to take my games on the go, and so I completely disagree that they should have done something to pivot away from their portable hybrid console, especially if you consider the sales numbers. I absolutely want them to continue down the path that they are currently in, and so again, you're allowed to want something different, but we're just gonna have to agree to disagree, and I would argue that your opinion is objectively wrong on this issue. No, they should not change, they should not pivot away from a portable home console. They should refine this idea. They should make a super duper really beefy portable home fucking console that can rival the Steam Deck, or you know, even surpass the Steam Deck. But no, they should not do something different. Finally, the last thing that I want to address that is slightly controversial, which many people were concerned over, are these possible points of failure as they are being referred to, which is where right here where the Joy-Cons connect to. And honestly, the only thing I want to say about this is that I honestly don't think it'll be too big of an issue. I'm almost positive that Nintendo stress tested these things before they even thought about selling them. I'll admit that they do look pretty easy to break, but because of that, I'm almost sure that the locking mechanism is a lot stronger than we're assuming, a lot stronger than we can see from the trailer here. And it's honestly as simple as that. I just really don't think that if it really was easy to break, that Nintendo would just acknowledge the issue and then release the system anyway. But those are my thoughts on that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you made it to the end of this video, I absolutely appreciate you, and I cannot stress that enough. But for what it's worth, thank you for watching, and if you happen to make it to the end of this video, then you may enjoy some of my other content as well, so do feel free to check that out if you so wish to. But with that being said, thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and I love you, baby.